sight of the flock, which our author had placed in his application, I have introduced in that part of the discourse to which they refer, just as we have motives to the oversight of ourselves in the preceding part of the treatise. Some of the particulars which he has under the heading of motives I have introduced in other parts of the body of the discourse, to which they appeared more naturally to belong. But though I have used some freedom in the way of transposition, I have been anxious not to sacrifice the force and fullness of our author's illustrations to mere logical arrangement. Many of the same topics, for instance, are still retained in the application which had occurred in the body of the discourse, and are there touched with a master's hand, but which would have lost much of their appropriateness and energy had I separated them from that particular connection in which they stand, and introduced them in a different part of the work. I have also corrected the language of our author, but I have been solicitous not to modernize it. Though to adopt the phraseology and forms of speech employed by the writers of that age would be a piece of silly affectation in an author of the present day, yet there is something simple, venerable, and impressive in it, as used by the writers themselves. While, however, I have made these changes from the original, I trust I have not injured, but on the contrary improved the work, that the spirit of its great author is so much preserved that those who are most familiar with his writings would scarcely be sensible of the alterations I have made had I not stated them in this place. Before I conclude, I cannot help suggesting to the friends of religion that they could not perhaps do more good at less expense than by presenting copies of this work to the ministers of Christ throughout the country. There is no class of the community on whom the prosperity of the Church of Christ so much depends as on its ministers. If their zeal and activity languish, the interests of religion are likely to languish in proportion, while, on the other hand, whatever is calculated to stimulate their zeal and activity is likely to promote, in a proportional degree, the interests of religion. They are the chief instruments through whom good is to be effected in any country. How important, then, must it be to stir them up to holy zeal and activity in the cause of the Redeemer. A tract given to a poor man may be the means of his conversion, but a work such as this, presented to a minister, may, through his increased faithfulness and energy, prove the conversion of multitudes. Ministers themselves are not, perhaps, sufficiently disposed to purchase works of this kind. They are more ready to purchase books which will assist them than such as will stimulate them in their work. If, therefore, any plan could be devised for presenting a copy of it to every minister of the various denominations throughout the United Kingdom, what incalculable good might be effected! There are many individuals to whom it would be no great burden to purchase 20, 50, or 100 copies of such a work as this, and to send it to ministers in different parts of the country, or several individuals might unite together for this purpose. I can scarcely conceive any way in which they would be likely to be more useful. To the different missionary societies, I trust I may be allowed to make a similar suggestion. To furnish every missionary, or at least every missionary station, with a copy of the Reformed Pastor, would, I doubt not, be a powerful means of promoting the grand object of Christian missions. Sure I am of this. There is no work so much calculated to stimulate a missionary to holy zeal and activity in his evangelistic labours. Edinburgh, 12th of March, 1829. Dedication. To my brethren, and dearly beloved brethren, the faithful ministers of Christ in Britain and Ireland, grace and peace in Jesus Christ be increase. Reverend brethren, the subject of this treatise so nearly concerneth yourselves and the churches committed to your care, that it emboldeneth me to this address, notwithstanding the imperfections in the manner of handling it, and the consciousness of my great unworthiness to be your monitor. Before I come to my principal errand, I shall give you an account of the reasons of the following work, and of the freedom of speech I have used, which to some may be displeasing. When the Lord had awakened his ministers in the county of Worcestershire, and some neighbouring parts, to a sense of their duty in the work of catechizing and private instruction of all in their parishes who would not obstinately refuse their help, and when they